Still pretending to be a hero? My brother laughed, his voice loud enough to bounce off the walls. The room chuckled along with him, a low, ugly sound. And I stood there completely silent. My hands clenched so tightly my nails dug into my palms. I could feel my face burning, not just from embarrassment, but from something deeper, something that felt like betrayal settling into my bones. He tilted his head at me, smirking, enjoying every second of it, and that's when I realized he wasn't joking. He wanted to humiliate me. He wanted to strip me of whatever dignity I had left in front of everyone who mattered to me. So tell me this right now, before I even explain how we got here. Was I wrong for what I did next? Or would you have done the exact same thing if you were standing where I was? I need to rewind, because moments like that don't just happen out of nowhere. They're built brick by brick, insult by insult, favor by favor, until one final shove sends everything crashing down. Growing up, my brother and I were always compared. He was older by 3 years, louder, more confident, the kind of person who walked into a room and immediately became the center of attention. I was the quiet one, the responsible one, the kid who did what was expected without making noise about it. Our parents loved to say he had leadership energy and I had a good heart. That sounds nice. Until you realize leadership energy got rewarded and a good heart just got taken advantage of. From the time I was a teenager, I was the one cleaning up after him. If he forgot to do his chores, I did them. If he screwed up at school, I was the example my parents used to show him how he should behave. When he borrowed money and didn't pay it back, everyone just shrugged and said, "You know how he is." When I helped him out, it was expected. When I needed help, it was inconvenient. I told myself it was fine, that families work like that sometimes. That being the dependable one meant something. I wore that label like armor, not realizing it was slowly turning into a cage. As adults, nothing really changed. He bounced from job to job, always with a big story about why the last place didn't deserve him. I, on the other hand, worked my way up steadily. I didn't make a ton of money, but I was stable. I paid my bills on time. I planned for the future. And every time he hit a rough patch, guess who got the call? Me. I helped him with rent more times than I can count. I co-signed a loan I shouldn't have. I made excuses for him at family gatherings, when people asked uncomfortable questions. And every time he'd clap me on the shoulder and say, "You're a lifesaver. Don't worry, I'll get you back. Someday." Someday never came. The breaking point didn't happen all at once. It started when our parents decided to host a big family event. One of those gatherings where everyone shows up dressed a little nicer than usual, pretending everything is perfect. Aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends, people I hadn't seen in years. It was supposed to be a celebration, but I could feel the tension before I even walked in. My brother had been staying with our parents again, just temporarily, and I already knew what that meant. Temporary had a way of stretching into months. Early in the evening, things were fine. We ate, we talked, people laughed. My brother was in his element, telling exaggerated stories, making people laugh, soaking up the attention. I hovered at the edges, refilling drinks, helping in the kitchen, doing what I always did. A few people thanked me, but most didn't even notice. That was normal. What wasn't normal was the way my brother kept glancing at me, like he was building up to something. Later, when everyone had settled in the living room, someone brought up the topic of responsibility. I don't even remember how it started, just that suddenly all eyes were on us. My brother leaned back in his chair, grinning, and said something like, "Yeah, well, not everyone can be perfect like my sibling here," always swooping in to save the day. A few people laughed politely. I forced a smile. Then he added, "Seriously, though, they love playing the hero. Makes them feel important, I guess." That's when he said it. "Still pretending to be a hero?" The room chuckled. Not because they thought it was hilarious, but because they didn't know what else to do. I stood there, silent, feeling like the ground had dropped out from under me. He went on, talking about how I needed to help him, how I liked feeling superior, how I'd probably be lost without someone to rescue. Every word twisted the knife a little deeper. He took my sacrifices and turned them into a joke. He took my loyalty and made it look like ego. I didn't say anything then. I couldn't. My throat felt tight. And I knew if I opened my mouth, I'd either scream or cry, and I refused to give him that satisfaction. The night eventually moved on, but something inside me snapped. For the first time, I saw the pattern clearly. He didn't see me as a sibling. He saw me as a resource, a safety net, a punchline when he needed one. On the drive home, my phone buzzed. A message from him. "Relax, it was just a joke." Don't be so sensitive. That was it. No apology. No acknowledgement of how humiliating it had been. Just another dismissal. I stared at that message for a long time. And for the first time in my life, I didn't reply right away. Over the next few days, I replayed everything in my head. Every loan, every favor, every time I'd put his needs before my own. I thought about the opportunities I'd passed up because I was busy, helping him out of another mess. I thought about how tired I was. Not physically, but emotionally. Exhausted from carrying someone who didn't even appreciate the weight. Then the real test came. He called me late one night, his voice strained, dramatic. He'd messed up again. Lost another job. Rent overdue. He needed help urgently. As he talked, I felt that familiar pull. That instinct to fix things, to step in. But this time, something was different. I remembered the laughter. The smirk. The way he'd reduced me to a joke in front of everyone. And I realized this was the moment. If I said yes again, nothing would ever change. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and really think about it. If you were me, after years of being used and publicly humiliated, would you still step in one more time? Or would you finally put yourself first? Comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Because at that moment, it felt like no matter what I chose, something was going to break. I took a deep breath and told him no. Just one word at first. No explanations. No justifications. There was silence on the other end of the line, then laughter. He thought I was joking. When he realized I wasn't, his tone changed. He accused me of abandoning him, of being selfish, of thinking I was better than him. The irony almost made me laugh. I reminded him of what he'd said at the family gathering, of how he'd mocked me. He brushed it off again, saying I was overreacting. But I didn't back down. The fallout was immediate. He told our parents. They called me, disappointed, asking how I could turn my back on family. I explained everything, calmly, for once not trying to soften the truth. I told them how hurt I'd been, how used I felt. There was a long pause. They didn't fully take my side, but they didn't dismiss me either. That was new. Weeks passed. My brother struggled. I heard about it through relatives. Part of me felt guilty. Another part felt lighter than it had in years. For the first time, my life was quiet. No emergency calls. No financial stress caused by someone else's mistakes. I started focusing on myself. I saved more. I slept better. I even laughed more. Then came the confrontation. He showed up at my place unannounced, angry, desperate. He accused me of ruining his life. I told him the truth, the words I'd swallowed for years. I told him I loved him, but I wouldn't enable him anymore. I told him being a hero wasn't something I pretended to be. It was something he'd forced me into. The fight was ugly. Voices raised. Harsh words exchanged. But when he finally left, I knew there was no going back to how things were. The aftermath wasn't perfect. Our relationship is distant now. Family gatherings are awkward. Some people still think I was too harsh, but others have quietly told me they respect what I did. As for my brother, last I heard he finally stuck with a job. Maybe hitting rock bottom helped. Maybe not. That part isn't really up to me anymore. What I learned is this. Being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. Helping someone doesn't give them the right to humiliate you. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't saving someone else, but saving yourself. If you are on my side, like this video, if you want to hear more real, messy stories like this, subscribe. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section, because I read them, and they matter. I'll see you all in the next story.